Good morning and welcome everyone again. Joe really doesn't require any introduction from me, but I do want to call out that among the many different roles that Joe has, Joe is also a very passionate philanthropist and also the proud owner of Brooklyn Nets. So Joe, thank you very much for joining us today. Jack Ma actually spoke at our very first China Summit back in 2005, and we cannot be more thrilled and privileged to have you at our 20th. So before we go to Alibaba, which will be a longer discussion, I want to start by asking you, what do you think the next season hold for Brooklyn Nets and New York Liberty, and whether we can expect a China tour anytime soon?
Well, first, thank you, Kamxing, for having me, and it's an honor for me to be on the stage, and congratulations to your 20th China Global Summit. The question about Brooklyn Nets and New York Liberty, I'll talk about New York Liberty. We are starting the season. We're 4 games into the season. We're 4-0. So that bodes well for the rest of the season. That's our women's team in New York. The Brooklyn Nets is at a crossroads in a way. I think we didn't do as well as we expected last season. We didn't make the playoffs, but we hope to revamp the team and make sure that we can compete in the long run. I think there's a difference when people ask owners, what do you want to do with a basketball team? There's a difference between I want to win versus I want to build a winning mentality and culture that's sustainable. Those two are very different things. You can't, if you want to be just win now, you could ruin your future by trading away all of your assets and just win now. But I think what I wanted to do with the Brooklyn Nets is to take a longer-term approach and build a winning, sustainable winning culture.
Well, the same philosophy, I'm sure, for you for running businesses as well. So can we expect a China tour anytime?
Yeah, I think because of the geopolitical situation, right now it would be very difficult to bring the NBA to mainland China. But in due course, I hope to see a China tour because what that reflects is a more benign geopolitical environment, especially the relationship between the two great powers, United States and China.
Okay, let's hope that you will be really soon. So Joe, you became the chair of Alibaba in September last year, and since then you've reorganized the management teams and made a number of changes. Tell us the thinking behind these changes, and more specifically, how are you going to invigorate the spirit of growth and innovation, which clearly has propelled Alibaba from a marketplace for small Chinese businesses to today, the multinational tech company that Alibaba is with over $1 billion of consumers. Some critics would say that that spirit might have been somewhat lacking in the recent times.
About a year ago, we announced that we were going to reorganize ourselves. The thinking internally, the primary thinking behind that is to ensure that our decision-making can be faster and that we give autonomy to more the business unit CEOs rather than having one group CEO having to make 100 decisions a day. That's not possible. So we solved the CEO bandwidth issue by delegating authority to the business units and also to younger people, all right? And then we had some personnel changes. So I'm in my position where I am now because of those personnel changes. The great thing is I work with a CEO who's much younger than I am. He is the day-to-day guy. Eddie Wu is our CEO. And he has huge credibility within the company because he had been a founder of the business. So we were all in that apartment back in 1999. And he had been involved in developing the major platforms like Taobao, Alipay, as well as all the monetization technology for those platforms. So he's very well equipped to be the CEO of the company. And having that in place, the next thing we said is we want to have focus. And if you look at Alibaba today, what we have communicated internally to our employees is that we're in two businesses. e-commerce and cloud computing. And then there are a lot of businesses that could support, that are strategic to us. So to give you an example, we're in the meals delivery business through a platform called Alibaba.
Oh, yes.
Yep. So do we have to be delivering meals? Is that our core business? Probably not. However, Alibaba is totally important to us because the on-demand delivery infrastructure that it has established, not just to deliver meals, but also other fresh perishable items like medicine, like flowers, fruits, that instant delivery infrastructure is completely strategic to us. And that's why it's an important part of our business. So we went through a process of understanding what is core, what is strategic,
Yep.
and what are some of the non-core stuff or financial investments that we can exit over time.
Right, great. So artificial intelligence is going to be discussed, I think, throughout the summit these couple of days. And Alibaba is a very active investor into generative AI. And so could you share with us what you think the role AI will play in the world in the coming years? And maybe more specifically, how the AI adoption will happen in Alibaba?
Yeah, first, well, for me to sit here and talk about AI is like 班门弄斧, you know, like we have a lot of people in the audience who are actually working on AI projects on a day in and day out basis. So the way as a layperson, if you will, to understand AI is with today's AI, which is very focused on large language models.
Yep.
You're basically trying to train a brain to achieve machine intelligence that could approximate human intelligence. And through that training process, that's like educating a child.
Yep.
Let's say you have children and you send them to school, you send them to middle school, high school, college, and then eventually they get PhDs, or eventually they get multiple PhD degrees. This is the race. That's what's going on in the large language model race. So when people try to compare large language models and mine is better than yours, they're really saying, well, I have a child that has like 3 PhD degrees and they are well-versed in biology, math, and psychology, whatever it is, all subject matters. The thing is, if you can understand AI and the training of machine intelligence in that context, in the context of educating kids.
Right.
So what's happened is it takes about 22 years to send a kid to college and graduate from college, and maybe they'll pursue postgraduate degrees. It took us, maybe 3 or 4 years to get to the large language model to be as smart as human beings in terms of knowledge and certain sort of mathematical computations and things like that to a point where they're just as smart as PhD students. And that's pretty scary. That's incredible, all right? So that's the context. Alibaba is involved in AI in 3 different ways. Number one, just fundamentally as a technology company, as a pioneer in technology, we believe in continuous advancement of machine intelligence, that machines will get smarter and smarter. A lot of people talk about artificial general intelligence, this ideal of reaching AGI.
Yeah.
I'm sure at some point we will have machines that could have some aspect of AGI based on however you define AGI. Just like, think about a child. They could be super, super smart in physics. That's AI. But if you ask them to go and make 10 friends in a day, they may not be able to do that.
Yeah.
Right? So in certain respects, machines can become even smarter than human beings, right? So we believe in this ideal of AGI and continuous development. And today with the idea of scaling law, which means that the more resources, whether it's data resources or computing power that you put into it,
Yep.
the marginal return in terms of performance of these large language models does not diminish. It continues, and in fact, it actually grows in a super linear way. That's pretty scary because it just means that the machine can get smarter and smarter as long as you feed the machine with data. And data is the food and also the books in the library when you're educating a child, right? You use that analogy. So that's number one. We just, as a pure ideal, we're going for it. And Alibaba has developed our proprietary large language model called 同义千问, which is actually one of the leading models in China. And in certain respects, we are competitive globally as well. That's number one. Number two is we have a cloud computing business. I think Alibaba is actually, probably one of the very few companies that both have proprietary in-house AI capability and also a cloud business. If you think about it, Microsoft and OpenAI are two separate companies. They have a very nice partnership right now, but maybe in the future they'll, maybe go their separate ways. So Microsoft actually does not have their proprietary development of AI. They basically outsourced it to OpenAI.
Right.
Amazon is in the cloud business, but they don't have proprietary AI that they developed themselves in terms of large language model. Facebook has their large language model, which they open source, Llama, but they don't have a cloud business. The only American company that has sort of both internal, in-house, is Google, but Google is number 3 in cloud, and AI is, some say they're not as good as OpenAI, right? But so you come to China, you look at Alibaba, we're the only company that both run a leading cloud business and also we're competitive in AI. So that combination between AI and cloud is important. Why? Because anybody that uses your AI, so we have both open source versions of our AI and also our more proprietary version where people can access through APIs. They are, anybody that uses our AI will need to use cloud computing power. They need compute, all right? We also developed the largest open source AI community called ModelScope, which has a lot of other people's open source AIs in that marketplace. So when they use the open source AI within our community, they need compute. So they need computing power. That's how we can grow our cloud computing revenue. In the last quarter, our AI revenues in the cloud business have grown triple digits. So that's very exciting to us, right? So the combination of AI and cloud is a terrific combination. So that's the second way. The third way we're involved in AI, and it's important to us, is that we can apply AI in numerous vertical applications. And if you think about e-commerce, the scenarios in e-commerce in terms of recommending what to buy, if you want to buy something for your friends, you need recommendations for their birthday, let's say. You want to walk into a virtual fitting room to see how some clothing fits on you. You need personal assistance, you need customer service. A lot of those things can be drastically enhanced by AI technology. And when we look at our use cases in e-commerce, it's incredible. We just see so much upside that AI could be applied. And so through these ways, we're involved in AI, and that's why we're all in.
Right. I see that you are uniquely positioned given that you have both the cloud business and also the AI business. Ali Cloud is probably now the largest platform in Asia Pacific. So you're definitely very well positioned there. And I love your analogy about AI and raising a child. Being a mother of 2, I know how hard and how long it takes to raise a child. But you, aside from your own proprietary large language model, 同义千问, you have also made strategic investments in 5 other large language models. And do you see synergy there, and how are you looking at the progress?
Sure, there's definitely synergies in that, well, first, besides being a parent, we're uncles or aunties to 5 other large language models through which we have relationships. When they train their models, they have to use our cloud computing resource. And that helps our cloud business.
Right.
But it's also a way of hedging our bets. We've learned through the last 25 years that, do you go proprietary? Do you go open source? Do you invest in somebody else? If you can afford it, a lot of people can't. If you can afford it, you do want to hedge the bets. AI is too important of an area where you just go one path. It reminds me of Yogi Berra saying, He said, when you come to a fork in the road, take it. I don't know if people got the joke, but when you come to a fork in the road, take it. So I think that's, we want to be well hedged. But having said that, obviously our proprietary large language model is very, very important to us, and a lot of resources being put into that.
Okay. Well, so maybe let's pivot a little bit and talk about the challenges that Alibaba is facing, right? Geopolitics clearly is getting more complicated. China's economy is still slowing. That's also the regulatory scrutiny. And of course, the competition in e-commerce is ever intensifying. How do you think about these issues and challenges?
That's a great question. You have mentioned regulatory scrutiny, you have mentioned competition, geopolitics, Chinese economy. But think about it. Every Chinese technology company faces exactly the same issue, right? All those factors. The unfortunate thing is, in the last 3 or 4 years, those factors, those sort of negative factors, have become the narrative for Alibaba. And it shouldn't be. Alibaba is about growth. We're about technology innovation. We're about applying our technology into our core business to create value for our customers and eventually also for our shareholders. So for us, it is what it is. Geopolitics or regulatory, whatever it is. We think we're now entering a phase where we're in a stable regulatory environment, in the sense that regulation is quite predictable. We know what are the red lines, what we can do and cannot do. Competition is always, since day one, we've had competition. So you can't cut costs and cut your way into competition. You have to have a growth mindset when you compete. And that's where we are. That's what we've decided to do. We've decided to very much focus on our core, e-commerce, cloud computing, and our goal over the next 10 years is to be able to get back to growth, get back to double-digit growth. We have said we're sort of from a planning standpoint, on a 3-year time horizon by our fiscal year 2027, March end 2027, we like to be growing double digits.
Great. I think we are holding our breath. There are many investors or shareholders of Alibaba in the room, and I'm sure they are delighted to hear that. So you and Jack co-founded Alibaba 25 years ago, and through all the monumental shifts the past 2.5 decades, how has your leadership evolved, and maybe also vision for Alibaba?
Yeah. Well, when I first started at Alibaba 25 years ago, I was a specialist in finance, legal, and I became the CFO of the company. I was CFO of the company for 13 years. So that's my job was very much day to day. You had to look after, not just look after investors, you have to look at accounting, tax, audit, internal audit, and just making sure that we have integrity in our numbers and have a well-established finance department that can handle all those things. And it's very much of a day-to-day job. And today, as coming back in as chairman of the company, the job is very different. We as a group, management team as a group, including our CEO, are doing the work of allocating resources and deciding what company resources that we allocate ourselves to. That's not just money. It is also people, right? Who to put in which division to run which business. Once those decisions have been made, then you do everything, as senior management, you do everything to ensure that those resources can be met, the needs can be met. That's about making sure that you establish a team of people, not just, if you appoint a CEO to a business unit, you want to make sure that their direct reports are good people and you help them to recruit. Yeah. You want to establish incentive plans so that their personal financial situation could be tied to the performance of the company. Designing those plans. You want to make sure that they have capital resources. So allocation of capital is important. So that's the nature of the job today than it was like, 15 years ago.
So much more strategic and providing directions and visions for the company.
I think that's too grandiose of a way to say. I say my job is to get out of people's way. Let your CEOs, let your operating management team operate and make day-to-day decisions because they're on the front line. They're closest to our users. They're closest to our customers. They should be in the primary position to make those decisions rather than me.
Okay, fantastic. So maybe I would, you alluded to it, but there are probably many shareholders of Alibaba in the room and potential shareholders of Alibaba in the room. What can they expect of the company in the next 1, 3, 5 years?
So I think the first thing our shareholders should expect is that management has extreme focus. We're extremely focused on our core businesses and how to create value and how to serve our customers, right? To give you an example, strategically, we have decided in our e-commerce business that we always put users first. Alibaba has always struggled in terms of trying to define who our customers are. Is it the merchant that are selling, or are they the users that are actually purchasing your products? We have decidedly gone into users first. That's because they're actually eventually spending the money to benefit our merchants.
Right.
They're actually, converting it, to use an internet tech, sort of our internal language, converting into purchases that will create business volume for us, right? So users first. So having that extreme focus and having a very clear strategic direction of what's important and what's not, that's what our shareholders should expect from management. And we're not going to spend time on unimportant things. I mean, there are a lot of businesses within our portfolio right now that, to be honest, are not that important. So that's not going to occupy a ton of mind share. The only mind share that we will apply to that is we'll figure out ways to exit those businesses.
So we can expect continued divestment of some of these non-core businesses from the company.
Yeah, as we've said in the last quarter, we've sold down non-core financial assets, and we declared a special dividend from the proceeds of those sales. I think people should expect that that's an ongoing project, and we have established special teams to manage that because we don't want that to distract our operating management team.
Fantastic. So we started the conversation on sports. I'd like to end our discussion today by asking you a question. How did you keep yourself in this tip-top condition? Do you join your team and play basketball, or what do you do to keep yourself fit? 25 years, you seem to look pretty much the same.
Thank you. People think when you own an NBA team, you can actually go on the court and play with your players. That's not true at all.
No? I thought that's the privilege of the owner. Yeah.
This is a privilege, but they would be just to try to, they will reluctantly go through that. No, I can't force them to play with me. Now, I can't even force my kids to play basketball with me. I have 2 sons who both played high school basketball. One is 21 and the other one is 17. They have now refused. I've gotten to a point where they refuse to play me because I'm not good enough. So to your question, I think it's very important to stay disciplined when it comes to just exercise, watch what you eat, and have a regular life. The challenge for me is I travel quite a bit, so the jet lag does get to you. I used to prioritize exercise over sleep. So for example, you arrive at 6 o'clock in the morning, you go to the gym, right? Mm-hmm. Now I prioritize sleep over exercise. there's a book that I would recommend everybody to read. It's called Why You Sleep. Basically what it says is that 99% of the people in the world need at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep. And if you think you're that 1%, you're not. I
am the 99%.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
I used to, for example, during a phase in the time, I still remember 6 months before our IPO in 2014, I slept 3 or 4 hours a day for 6 months. Mm-hmm. And that's not the way to live. You're going to crash yourself if you don't get enough sleep.
Okay, 6 to 7 hours of sleep every day.
No, 7 to 8.
7 to 8, okay.
And when you sleep, we talked about this in the green room, when you sleep, keep your temperature low. Yeah.
Yes,
To
preserve yourself better.
preserve yourself better, yeah. I feel very cold on this stage. It's good.
We're in the right conditions. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you can join me and thank Joe.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.